Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to Third Culture Convos. Before we start the show today, I just want to make a shout out to all the listeners. Thank you so much for listening. You guys are, you people are awesome. And if you're enjoying the show and you're enjoying what you got, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on, please hit that subscribe button. It really makes us very happy. We'd love to see some subscriptions. Just take a second, do it. Maybe pull over. Don't pull over. Keep driving. But thanks and appreciate that. And that's that. It keeps us going. It keeps us excited. And it's nice. It's nice to share with you. What's up, Majid? How you doing, buddy?
Very excited, as you can tell. Very,
Oh,
very
yeah.
excited.
Man, I know that's like your MO, super excitement. You're just swimming in it. Just your energy, man. You got to tone that shit down, please. A little too high for me.
Yeah. A little too much enthusiasm.
uh, today I wanted to talk about something that's been grinding my gears. Or it's actually been going on a lot. So January. Welcome to the last day of January. It's usually people are like, "What the fuck? It's over already." We're almost done with 2023, guys. And so January brings I think January brings a lot of reckoning to what you did last month. Usually the year starts
Can
February
we
1st.
can we be done with 2023? Is the question. Like, is that an option? Because I didn't get that option.
I think we got a few years to go through, but usually the year starts February 1st. It doesn't actually start January 1st because January 1st is when you reckon on what happened in 2022. And I feel like, and there are a lot of reckonings that have been happening this month. So the big boys, and you know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the big corporations, the big tech, big companies. Are dealing with one of the shittiest, like, let's say, stock market years in 2022. Everything was down. Not this ain't no Trump era no more. The stock market's up. Hey, it's up. It's not like that anymore. And so all the companies, all the tech companies, are, like, laying off on, like, record numbers. And so I mean, we're it's huge. It's huge. Like Google, Alphabet, I think, laying off 12,000 people worldwide. Like Spotify laid off a
Microsoft
bunch.
10,000.
Microsoft 10,000 people. Apple, I don't know if Apple has, but I'm sure. Um,
I don't know about Apple actually.
Amazon laid off a bunch of people. I mean, it's coming. And I don't think it's just tech. It's like, I mean, it's really kind of throughout all the industries that if the company has a stock market, then like, or is listed on the stock market, then it seems like these corporations don't really have a choice but to do that. And I'm kind of like, so I'm bringing this up in light of this idea that a lot of things are coming into my head when I talk about this. Okay, so the first thing is one of the things that was on the news, or like sort of was like a lot of people that worked at these companies did a day in the life, and like, so there's just like one famous, like, woman, I think, that worked at Microsoft or Google, where she was like at the day in the life, and then she would, like, get to work and, like, look at the breakfast buffet that was available, that was all free, the dinner buffet that was available, that was all free, and the, like, the perks of the job, all these free things, of the PlayStation room. They probably actually in Microsoft had a different room. They probably had an Xbox room. But all these things, get
They have a
Fridays off.
PlayStation room. It's there to, like, break it. Office space. It's there to, like, break
Yeah.
PlayStations.
Yeah,
Take
yeah.
out your
We just
rage.
actually, that's why there's this PlayStation 5 shortage.
It's new
Because,
corporate therapy they're
yeah,
trying.
Microsoft bought them all and brought them into a room and just had the staff fucking take it out on them.
Die, mofo, die, mofo, die.
This was all like self-administered. So all these corporations and tech company as well, that were kind of living in the world of excess, because it seemed quite excess. And even Twitter, when Elon comes in and he's like, "Look, man, if you're not high performing, get the fuck out." Right? Like, we're not having this shit no more. Like, and so with all these companies doing that, and like, let's say the teat is over. There's no more milk at the thing, like, now it's hard times. So when they're tightening the belt and they're letting all these people go, I think it's really interesting for corporations to do this, because on the one hand, like it kind of clarifies what the bottom line is. Um, a company makes a bunch of like really kind of wasteful decisions during high times and good times, and now they gotta like, tighten the belt and then let all people off. But why do they gotta do that? I think it's like to protect their like profit margins and to protect their profits, because before they were making astronomical profits. And then, but what happens to all the excess of that profit? Like, what happens to all that money? And like, it's not like they're paying taxes, right? Like, it's not like, okay, great, we're making so much money now, we're gonna, like support all these things or whatever. Like, there's none of that shit happens. And then, like on a macro scale, you get to like letting all these people off, which adds a new burden to the public sector, because employment insurance, all these like unemployment, all this type of stuff. Now they're looking for jobs, all these people. So now you have like all the like these unemployed people that are now like looking for work, and so that makes the already strained high unemployment even higher. So, and these guys, it's not like they're hiring now, like all the big corporations that are enjoying all these profits and all the great times as a result of the pandemic, um sort of accelerated by the pandemic, all these fucking great times that they've been enjoying. Now they do that, and at the end of the day, like, people get fucked, like people get screwed. And I guess I want to bring this out in terms of like loyalty. So when you work for a company for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, it's a fallacy. It's like bullshit to think that they would ever be loyal to you, even though you kind of pretend and act and you wear the swag, you wear the Microsoft swag, you wear the like the thing, you walk out, this is the greatest company ever. They give me breakfast, they give me lunch. But even in that, they were fucking with you. Um, you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, back in the day, when my dad was working, it used to be like you would work 30 years at a company. You've talked about 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah,
used
yeah,
to be 20, 30, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
20, 25, 30. Like those were the big milestones.
Those are the numbers.
Those were the numbers, those were the watch numbers. Yeah, yeah. And now it's 3, 4, 5 years, right? Like I know people who've jumped jobs 2, 3 times in a year now. Like literally, I know a couple people here who have jumped jobs twice in a year, two different people.
Yeah,
So I think there's a generational divide. I think the concept of corporate loyalty, it's not there among millennials and the younger, but it definitely is there with boomers and older. Like recently, there was a TikTok video where was tell was saying that talked to mom, and she's like, people are getting more money than I am. I need to bring this up. And the mom was like, no, 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 don't talk about money. Just be grateful for what they give you. You need to work hard and they'll reward you for that. And she was like, no, I don't buy this. I don't buy it.
I think that's smart. I actually think that there is a lot of people that like believe in that corporate lawyer, even in the millennial and younger ages. Like they still are, especially when they finally get that, like, let's say that dream job, like that Microsoft gig, that like Apple gig, that Amazon gig, where it's like, oh man, and then they shower you with these like benefits, like these on the job like perks. But even in those perks, right? Like one of the things that annoys me about these perks, outside of the like, it's crazy the cost on the business, but it's in order to extract more from people for free. So it's cheaper to make the dinner buffets to pay people for a 9 to 5 job, but make dinner start at 7. So if dinner starts at 7 and it's free, then I get 2 more hours from you for free. Because then you're going to hang out at the office. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to hang out. You're going to do some work. You're going to do something. And so now I'm sucking more work out of you at a lower cost. Because let's say your hour is 50 to $100, and dinner is $30, right? So I'm like, oh, sweet, I paid dinner and I get 2 more hours. And the person's like here. They're with me. So even in that, there's this real like psychopathy, this like real craziness in terms of the corporate world. And what I find actually most entertaining now, And as I shared this, now I'm gonna like share why I shared. So yesterday I was going through the news and I was like, oh shit, there's so much corporate like crazy going on right now. And I shared two things with you yesterday. I shared that Nike is suing Lululemon for footwear infringements on its patents, right? And I shared the U.S. court rejects Johnson and Johnson's bankruptcy strategy for its for thousands of talc lawsuits for the baby powder that had carcinogens and things like this. So I think it's just I'm just going to go into it. So Nike sues Lululemon, and I think, oh, why would they do that? Like, why would they do that for like damages and like lots of money and all this stuff right now? I get first because the economy's tight. Now Nike, like maybe 4 years ago, Nike would be like, ah, yeah, cool, whatever. Like, it's chill, let them do it. But now the economy's tight. And so you see the psychopaths like now fighting each other, the corporate crazies going nuts on each other. So that's the first reason I shared that. And then the second reason with this U.S. court, so the second thing with the Johnson and Johnson strategy to defend itself against. So I don't know if you know this, but what the article states is that Johnson and Johnson, what they're doing is they're creating a subsidiary company, or they're trying to do is create a subsidiary company that they're gonna tie all the like talc lawsuits into, and say, okay, that's the company, and then they're gonna bankrupt that company, so that they can't. So they're like, yeah, but the company is bankrupt, so like now it can't pay out all of the payouts, and apparently like a U.S. judge was like, hell no.
You have to admire the creativity.
It was wonderful. Like
the corporate
like,
creativity.
Yeah. Sitting there and like there's a legal team. And because now this is like a huge, I mean, this is a pharmaceutical company and they're very used to these types of fucking lawsuits. Like this is their thing. Like they're the biggest the biggest payouts in US history due to these class action lawsuits are pharmaceutical companies. So they like so when they do things like this, I think, oh man, even Johnson & Johnson, right? Like that's some dirty business. Like why do these people still kind of get unfettered access to like, the FDA, and they soak up all this type of stuff? So that was a story that had come, that I had seen, that like, so those two stories, it made me see, as I'm reading the news, I'm looking at like sort of more of that corporate pettiness, it's not even pettiness because it's not a few pennies, it is big money, but more of this like corporate desperation, right? Because as soon as we started treating corporations as people, but they're not fucking people, they're crazy, right? Like if they were people, they'd be psychopaths, right? So like they're not to be trusted. Like they'll do anything to get a dime, right? Like to like make it more. They'll fire everybody. They'll do this. They'll hit you with the carrot so they can smack you with the stick. Like they'll do all these things. And there's more and more examples of it. As the more I read the news. Like the more I see, I just see more and more of it. That's why I say that shit.
Well, the one I've been paying attention to, this also dropped a couple days ago, and this has a little bit more of an international flavor. There's levels to this one. Have you heard of the Adani group? Gautam Adani?
Is that the Indian one?
There's two guys in India. One is Ambani and one is Adani. Okay. They're both super rich dudes.
Yeah, so I've heard. I've heard. Like, they show up now in all the memes. Like they're like, it's like them and Jeff and Elon and like, yeah.
That's the one. Like, yeah,
that crew.
yeah.
That crew.
Like, yeah. So Adani has a lot of businesses in India, all over the place, different businesses. And he's a major player in India. His company is major, and he's either the richest man in Asia and one of the richest people in the world, or something like that. Like he's on the top 10 for both of them. An American company recently called Hindenburg Research are short sellers in the stock market, and they said that this Adani group is pulling off the largest con in corporate history. And basically, yeah. He's grown his business astronomically. He's friends with the Prime Minister Modi. He's like best friends with him, which is why like you can track as Modi entered office, his finances and his company suddenly started doing shockingly well.
Subhanallah. How'd that
Uh,
happen? What luck?
and the research group says that all they've done is taken debt. They have just taken debt and they've passed it on from one company to another, and they've actually not created any value as Wall Street corporates like. Now, what happened was the Adani group responded to this research group that's based in America and said, hey, you are trying to take down an Indian corporation because you don't like this is part of your Western agenda to bring down India as a whole. You are taking down one of the largest Indian corporations.
Who's saying this?
Hindenburg,
Okay.
the group, in response to the research that
Okay.
like the research was saying that this company and this group of companies, they're leveraged to the hilt and like nobody should invest in them. This is a corporate scam. Adani
Okay.
then responds, no, these guys, like
You
these
guys are
research
racist.
people,
This is racist.
they're racist. The
Yes.
culture clash. They're racist.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is the West
They don't
trying to
understand
bring
how we do
down
business.
an underdog company.
Okay.
Hindenburg then responded and said, you can't drape, like, you can't hide corruption by draping yourself in nationalism.
Okay. So
Like everything that we said
wait,
on
so you can't pull you
did
can't pull a
not.
Modi. You can't pull a Modi on this one.
Like, stop trying to pull this shit on us. It might work in your backyard, but like if you really are serious, come sue us in an American court. Like all
Okay.
of your jibber jabber, blah blah blah, come sue us because we have all the receipts ready.
Okay.
Now, another friend, an Indian friend of mine, he's from a marginalized community over there. He writes, listen, I'm all for taking this dude down. He's done a lot of, like, his companies have done a lot of sketch stuff. They've like buying removing land, removing farmers from land forcefully, for example,
Yeah.
environment pollution, for like they
Yeah.
are high up there with carbon emissions. We can that level. We're talking about hiring and firing. Oh yeah, this Adani storyline has me hooked right now. One American company calling it the largest con in corporate history. They are quickly saying, no, we're Indian. This is like a Western plot. And they're responding that, okay, come to court. Let's do this.
But isn't that the new, like, I feel like the new India, the move, because every time I get news from India, and maybe some of our Indian people can help like clarify this if there's a different opinion, just drop that in the comments. But in the Indian, like Modi just banned that BBC documentary about his and like what a classically, like, I feel like a classically Eastern move to be there's a documentary that paints the leader in a bad light, and so as opposed to just letting it like air and just letting it go, and like maybe it'll just go, and it's the BBC, it's the BBC. And just letting it go, he goes, no, ban it in India. You can't see it on Twitter. You can't see it anything. No one's allowed to talk about it. This is anti-state propaganda. And how convenient that you've made your a documentary that's against you anti-state, right? Like, so okay, so because you are obviously eternal, obviously you're eternal, man. Like of course, this mentality, like this extension of mentality of being like, okay, like I think it adds more credence to the psychopathy of this, like, of top power of these people, because that's what a psychopath would do. He would pick and choose. He says, okay, oh no, now you're being Hindu phobic or Indian phobic or Islamophobic. Like now you're doing that because you're calling me on my shit, right? And like everyone knows here, you can't call me on my shit. Like everybody knows in India, you don't call me on my shit. I call you on your shit, right? Like I do the shit calling, right? Walter White. I am the one that knocks. Like it's like that type of like that like gangster mentality, right? Like
And that's, I'm glad you made that connection. That's exactly what I was going for, is that it's weird that they jump to like nationalism instead of like business sense, right? That suddenly, like, where there was smoke, it now really seems like there's fire, because like your response was so off base almost and
yeah. Well,
psychopathic. Like it wasn't like a straight response. It
it's
was
that like
like,
because they appeal to a tribal identity because like there's this idea that like if I'm in your group, like so like they want every, like for example, they want everybody to be Indian, India first, right? India first also means Modi first because Modi is India, right? like like and Modi is Modi and Modi and friends. And so in this case it'd be Adani and like and all these stuff. And so when you if 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 someone insults or criticizes from the outside one of our own, and that's what Modi is trying to present himself as. I am one of your own. Even Adani, you should be proud of this company, India. You should be proud that we are the top percent of the world. You should be proud of everything that we did. You should be. And so when anybody comes in and says that, this is an easy brainwashing. This is easy to be like, hey, man, any attack on them is an attack on India, is an attack on me, the Indian. And this is where this is where third culture kids like are so important. Like where this mentality is so important because even though we like I mean I get it. I get the feeling of pride towards your like your group, right? Like and where you're from and your people. I get it. But then because of your not split allegiances, but your ability to be in different places, you can see that as the tactic that it is, right? That the ploy that it is, the move that it is, to remove any opposition to their hegemonic power.
well, the first time you see it, you don't know any better. You think everybody does it this way. The second time you see it, you're like, oh, okay, wait, everyone's kind of like this. Like they
Yeah,
use certain tools to trigger certain emotions to get to certain
yeah.
things. And then
Well,
when you see it a third time in a third random place, so like, Yani, in your case, for example, you see it in Saudi, then you see it in Canada, then you go to the US and you see it even more there, or anywhere where you've
well, even
traveled
in the
to.
U.S., like the U.S., I think is really interesting because, like, literally an example that came into my head and something that I heard about. You know, remember that woman CEO that like raised all this money because she was like, I'm gonna figure out the medical, like
Elizabeth Holmes,
Elizabeth
Theranos.
Holmes, and she's the only one. Like she's like the first CEO that's ever like been on like like in trial, like facing jail time in trial. And I think it's interesting that like all the men get away with it, but the one woman that does the thing, she's the one that like gets the shit. Like she's like, oh no. Like white men could do it. All white men could do
We
that
need to
shit.
make an example out of
We
her.
need to
Yeah,
make an
yeah.
example out of
These,
her, man. I'm
these
like, I
CEOs
can't
are
believe.
getting out of control. It's not
Yeah.
women, it's CEO,
Let's go
right?
pick that one. And like, because everybody does it. Like they all do it. They all do it. Like let's not kid ourselves here.
Well, like that's a topic I'd love to have for another day, because in my opinion, white collar crime hurts a lot more than like violent crime almost. Like in terms of
The
societal
impact. Yeah, how
consequences.
far it goes and the impact. Well, and these people, these companies get so big, like I mean, even for some towns and stuff, like there'll be like that one factory in the town. And then that like is like literally the economy of the town. 50,000 people work at this one factory. And like they're so big that any like that it's almost like within the states or the municipalities responsibility to keep that thing going. because if it was
Well,
gone, there would be some.
it and develop it, they did have support from the government, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they
yeah, yeah,
did build roads at some point. They did probably get tax benefits. And by the way, I want to street crime more than violent crime. I would just like to rephrase what I had said, not violent crime, but street crime and just sort of like misdemeanors and stuff.
yeah,
Um, and by the way, in for example, Disney in Florida is autonomous country, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
they have their own land in Florida. It's a
Yeah.
company that gives so much income, tax income to Florida that they can literally claim some of their own land and be like, yo, we make our own rules here. We don't do
Yeah.
that here.
We
Like,
got we got the army of brooms that'll fuck you up.
yeah,
Fantasia.
yeah. And that acceptance of capitalism, I don't know if any other country would have, where they're like, you know what, you're that big where you can take this bit of land and run it autonomously because you're a business and we need you.
Yeah, yeah.
This BBC documentary, they'll just ban them. It's too big.
Well, I mean, but even I mean, when the BBC is released, so that's the thing that like it 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 kind of adds more and more. Like I'm careful with these types of conversations because they always kind of like I'm not necessarily I don't bash capitalism. I'm all right, man, with capitalism. It gets people out and all this type of stuff. But I don't actually think that this is necessarily. I mean, actually, maybe I haven't thought this next sentence entirely through. But I don't know if this is capitalism proper. If this is really what capitalism like is. So, in the sense that because it's once you're at these like sort of stratosphere level, similar to how when you start going like you start talking about like Newtonian physics and you talk about like the electrons, your protons, your things, and then they all follow like rules. Like you don't set the rules, you just found out the rules. Like you discovered the rules, and then you're like, oh, these are the rules. Like celestial bodies, this is how they move. Like why like they move according to pi equals 3.414 da 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 da. That's just the way it is. It's a crazy number. It's crazy that we even know this. But then as you go down further and further and you get into like quantum, all those rules don't apply anymore. And now it's like it's just random. It's like it's hard to like pinpoint rules because the rules that govern the rest of the universe doesn't govern this at this level, of analysis or magnification or view. And it seems like with capitalism as well, that there is a level that is quantum. That the basic rules like sell for less than you buy, keep your costs manageable, like do like stay lean, all these types of like like work your resources, see what you have that you can use, right? Like provide value to the world in exchange for a medium of exchange, right? For goods and services and things like this, like all these basic ideas. Once you get to this like level, this quantum level of corporation, let's say, um, it just like a whole new set of rules come into play, and rules they don't apply. Like so, the rest of people, like small to most capitalism, like most companies are small to medium sized businesses, like just in terms of volume. Like most are going to be small to medium sized businesses, and then there's that. But most power and most influence and most money are in the top like 1% of that are corporations. They're massive. They're huge, and so I feel like it's a similar type of analogy. It's an analogy to or analogous to the idea of how like the rules just start to warp at those highest levels, and then it's just crazy. Then it's like you're in Epstein territory,
Uh, they do warp, and the unfortunate part is the United States government at least fully acknowledged this when they said that we're going to bail out too big to fail banks. That
Yeah,
is your quantum leap. The two
yeah,
Once you have something that's too big to fail, that in a capitalistic market, in a free market system, the market has dictated it needs to fail. So there's no such
yeah,
thing as too big. And then when you go ahead.
No, and that's also added to, like, I mean, even the response in the pandemic, right? Like, because when you look at like who was hurt, which corporations were hurt in the pandemic, or which businesses were hurt in the pandemic. It's like I've heard this said before. It was like it was a war on small to medium sized businesses because they didn't get to stay open, right? Like they had to close their doors, they had to close their restaurants, they had to close all their businesses, while Walmart and Target and whoever, like the big corporate and Amazon, got to keep open, and Costco, and they were like essential services, and they raked it in, while everybody else, like there's lineups of standing outside those places, and then while everybody else, well, you know, you have to close your business. And so I think it just adds more, it just further made this idea that there are rules for that 1%, and then there's rules for everybody else.
It's the same if you dig into sort of Tesla and the beginning of Tesla, that like they got a lot of money from governments, like the US government, to develop their stuff. And it's just, you have to, it begs the question, like who's making the rules, who's getting to decide where these, not just, it's not like $10 going here or there. This is, now we're talking like hundreds of millions of dollars. This is like, and again, it is one of those things where if the crime is, like, if you're gonna do a crime, do a massive one, to the point where it's so big that they don't even investigate you.
Yeah.
They don't even know something's happened, kind of thing.
Yeah. Too big to catch.
That usual yeah, joke. Like,
Yeah.
too big to catch. It's that Kaiser Soze line. The
Yeah,
greatest
yeah.
trick the devil ever pulled was to convince them he didn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's the game. And I think we
it's
like,
just
yeah.
it's just it, and we're seeing that more and more. By the way, the modern example, so we went through our financial crisis, we did the pandemic. The modern example is your meme stocks with GameStop and the short sellers, the
Yeah.
institutional short sellers, and stock people who are investing in the stock market today, individual investors, are now seeing just how rigged the game is, just how rigged the game has always been.
Oh yeah. Dude, apparently like a month ago, Nancy Pelosi like sold like shorted or sold all these Google stocks, or Alphabet stocks, and then like 4 weeks later, like Alphabet is hit with like I think either a lawsuit or a restriction or some sort of thing. Like I get I read this yesterday too, that like, and like, oh, what how, like, how come this happens every time with you, Nancy? Nancy, how are you so good at this? I wonder how you're so good at this. Beats me.
And this is something, like, Congress could get this tied up, this loophole or this like
Oh
vacancy
yeah.
tied up overnight.
Yeah, but they're the ones that
Right?
benefit from it. Why would they like imagine you go to your like employer, right? Imagine you go to your employer and you go, yo, I think you're paying me too much money. Like I think I know I don't, or it's even that, like, man, I could just like, you got way more money coming in from the side due to your position, that why would you put a rule that would stop that? Like, I feel like it's you. Like, why would you expect them to do that? Because what? Because of what? Because of ethics? What ethics? How do you get to that position with ethics? How?
Yeah. I
Like, how, like,
and
show me
this
the
is
path.
what this is what amazes me about Americans who are hardcore, like one side or the other. This is, like, I am
Yeah,
personally a political independent, and I find it batshit crazy that there's people who are fully invested in these people who
in
are
this one
just there
side.
making money.
In the one side, so they're in that little media
Either
bubble
side.
of the side. Yeah, either side. That one side. It's not like you. It doesn't matter which side. Like, it doesn't
One of
matter.
them loves, one of them has invested in the defense industry and makes money off of that. The other one has invested in all the other massive corporations, whether it's big tech, media and entertainment, or pharma.
Yeah.
Like either way, both sides are going to make money when they are in office, especially also when they are not in office. Make
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
mistake.
Well, and the same with like, and I feel like the same game plan is being like is unfolded in all like even in the East. So like in India with Modi, like, look, man, India first, baby. It's so easy because if you just start saying India first, India first, India first, and every attack is an attack on you, it's a similar move because the more people think that, the more they can get people to think that way, the less scrutiny like is allowed, like not that there is that it's allowed to be, or he could just ban it on Twitter maybe.
It's copy paste in India. There was a BBC article last week that in India, the top 1% have earned 40.5% of the
The
earnings, have
well,
taken home 40.5% of the earnings. So it's that same income
and it
inequality.
seems to me also that in India, any of these companies, like there's no way to the top without being dirty. Like in order to get to that position, you would have had to kick off farmers, off their land. You would have had to like, like done dirty things to be in that position.
Uh, n- I- yes, but no more than any other business in any part of the world.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
will say
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Fair enough. Yes, I
Yeah,
agree.
okay, it's different if I'm opening a convenience store in America. Like, you don't have to do this dirty, dirty stuff. Like, it's not like that. There is a system. But again, when you do get to a certain level in even America, especially in America,
Yeah.
you outsource your dirtiness. This is the only difference,
Well,
is you don't.
exactly. You outsource it. You make it not a part of your. You say that's not my supply chain. That's not my problem. I just bought the product. That's not me.
I do B2B. I do
Yeah.
B2B. How they do their business is their
And
business,
the
right?
biggest example of that, I was just like, so cobalt, right? Like cobalt has to be mined, and the biggest mines of cobalt, like I think like 80% of the cobalt in the world comes out of the Congo, and a lot of and the conditions in the Congo in terms of getting these things are like beyond, like, beyond any hell you could possibly imagine. Children down in like manholes, and no ventilation. People die every day. Kids die every day. $1 a day, like not even $1 a day, right? Like everyone has to go into the mine, and risk their entire family. Absolute garbage, right? And then when you find out that even the thing that you and I are recording on right now, and every person, the device that they're listening to, like all of us are implicit, are in this, like we're a part of this. And then when you go to the big corporation who like profits off of this, so yes, we get the benefits of the product, we get the benefits of the connection, we get the benefits of like this, like we do. And there's like a reckoning, I think, that we have to face with that, right? Because even like, when you're Greta Thunberging it, and you're just like scolding everybody else, that's very easy to scold. I find it's very easy. So I'm trying to be careful with that, because like that's where my criticism kind of goes in that direction, where I'm like, yeah, sure, like maybe you should not get a phone then, and you shouldn't have a car either, and you shouldn't have really anything. Like you should really have nothing. Like I mean, maybe actually, the Indian guys that like go off into the forest, and they're done, like they're just done, like that, and like, out of choice, like maybe they got something on there, right? Like, okay, sure. But so when you do that, and then we're all implicit, and then when you go to the big corporations and you go to the big guys and you say, hey guys, like, can you have the ones that are profiting, so you have the responsibility to make sure that like, okay, we need to mine this stuff, but you can now go in and make it safer, increase the pay, make it so that their kids don't have to go, do like, you can get in there, you can do that, And then they say, no, it's not me. We just buy it from China. And so, oh, so khalas. And like literally everywhere you look now, everywhere you look, really, I feel like every country in the world that you look right now, there are like worker protests due to conditions. Like major protests due to conditions, factories, everything. Hey, we're done. We're not doing this shit no more. And even the way these protests are presented in the media is not necessarily sympathetic to the plight. It depends on how we feel about that government, but it's not necessarily sympathetic to the plight or to the thing. It's very like, well, and now that's why there's an iPhone shortage. That's why there's a PS5 shortage. That's why there's a so and so shortage, because the conditions and the workers. And it would take a lot. It takes a lot for people in like a factory to come out and go like, guys, we can't do this anymore.
Enough.
Yeah, we can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like you can't. That takes a lot. That takes a lot. Like, so I think about that, and I think
it takes a lot, and they're not asking for much. That's the really sad part.
Yeah, and that's where the crazy.
And they're really not asking for much.
And so when I aim my like anger or my criticism, I feel like there's only one place. And so this is where me and Greta agree, is that the only place to really aim them is at the top. And then in the last week, we had the World Economic Forum going on, right? And that's where the top hangs out, right? To like feel good about things and feel positive and be amazing and and feel great about stuff. That's where the top hangs out. And so then you look like, and as the fallout of that event, it hurts me, that event, man. It really does. Like every year I'm like, oh, it's back. It's this time of year again. Every damn January. And they get together and then they come up and they show these new ideas. And one of the things that they shared, okay, so I'm turning again on more of this type of shit about like worker control and like loyalty and all that type of business. And it's kind of tied together, is that they have this like, and I'll ask you, man, like, what do you think about this? They have these like a technology that like, it's like earplugs, you put them in, and then it can read your brain waves to see if you're focused or not, and keep a record of it. So if your eyes are going here, if your eyes are going there, and then it can notify you with a buzz that, oh, you stopped paying attention. Like it gives you a little shock. Oh, keep your eye back, like pay attention, man. And it was presented like in like, isn't this amazing?
If I had that when I was 10 years old, I'd probably be a neurosurgeon today. or like I don't even know.
I don't know if that'll motivate you.
I feel
think it turns you into
this kind of tech can quickly be weaponized, and I don't mean weapon in like a shoot thing. I mean like in a like subliminal kind of way. Like it's I don't know. And like, especially because you can create like unintended consequences with like a Pavlovian response, even, for example. Like some combination of everything, right?
Well, and also like literally, like, because it's like it's monitoring your stress levels. It's monitoring in your brain, and like I feel like in my it's like even in sometimes in Arabic we have mujamala, when you jamil someone, when like you play along. It's like it means playing along, and so sometimes I'm not with you, but I'm just playing along. Okay. And I feel like every human being has the right to do that. And you don't have the right to be in my head to tell me, hey, you like you better try to read me, because even in me playing along, that's a sign to you that there's something wrong with you and your presentation and your job and your this and or what you're trying to get me to do. And so I'm just playing along because either you pay me or because of like some other dynamic that exists between us.
Speaking of presentations, I just got reminded at this Davos summit that happened, dear old Manchester United had like a luxury box that they had opened up there for like, the rumor is for potential investors. And Oh, I want to just bring this back to like corporate. I was just thinking about this right now. Like they had a luxury box or whatever. It's really weird when you think about like Manchester United is a football club, but they're also a like full on corporation at this
Oh
point,
yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Well, that's
um,
what the fans actually get so upset about, right? Like that's like they've been saying it for years. They've been saying it for years. They've been saying it for years. They're like, "What happened to our club? It's not a club anymore. It's a it's a franchise. Like it's a like it's just a franchise. It's no. It's like it's just a franchise. Like when was the last time United won shit? Like
well, it's the same thing. The owners of United, the Glaziers, they've just like leveraged the club and taken money personally. Like they've put debt on the club and kept that money on the side for
yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
And like the product, whatever they put on the pitch is like to hell with it. Um,
Just the
yeah,
idea of like
and
setting up, like the idea of setting up a booth in Davos, like the Glazers could set up a booth, like you know, like young entrepreneurs, like you know, like starting like getting feedback. Oh, so interested in a football club? Anybody? Like
yeah, really, when I saw it, I'm just like, man, like, and it is part of the reason why on the substitutes the channel, I've talked about being a glory hunter because I got sick of my club United being so corporatized to the point where you know what? If you're going to be corporate, I'll be corporate as a fan. Yeah, whoever wants support, whoever's winning, I want to feel good. I'm joining them. So now I consider myself an independent football supporter. If anyone's a mercenary, freelance, independent, freelance supporter.
Man, they really liked you in Qatar. There was like that was the accusation that everybody was doing that. Open fan groups. Like, okay, who do you want us to support today?
I'm totally ready to be one of those dudes. Like, get me one of those links. Get me that hotel.
Just tweet us, just tell us, just send the message. um, it's nuts the things like that's what I think it's pretty crazy with like because usually when you see a lot of the talks and stuff that happens at Davos, then you'll see the real like disconnect like the like that's it's I feel like the scariest place in the world. Like I feel like it terrifies me because that's where they go and you're like literally the people that make the most evil policies ever. So like you know the Pfizer CEO, he's there, he's walking around, and like these guys are like known liars, just walking around. Like so, when I see them there, and they're all just getting together to like save the world, I'm terrified. It's terrifying. It's like who's it? Like somebody, please stop this, please. Like and then the shine of it all, like the literally the shine and the gleam like people are like even like you know peers are like attracted to it because they go like because it serves your ego to be in this situation. I'm in the room with them. I'm there with the decision makers, and it's easy to dismiss me as the critic because I'm not in the room because I'm not invited to that room, right? Like because like and right so like and so it just kind of creates a very I feel like a stagnant like problem because then they come up with these ideas like oh this is a great idea man like run it, let's get everybody's like emotions recorded and and like let's set up this dystopian reality, and that's where like you know all the conspiracy kind of comes from like from there. But it just doesn't like it doesn't even seem that conspiratorial. It doesn't seem like it's that much of a stretch. Maybe I am conspiratorial in my thinking, but it just doesn't seem like it's that much of a stretch to believe that these dynamics would create this situation where it led to a loss of like I mean I guess the things we take for granted in terms of like freedom of like even privacy of your own inner thoughts.
Well, you know what you were saying about like the inside club and then there's the outside. I think just to bring it back full circle to what we were talking about at the beginning, that's kind of why there is corporate loyalty anymore because the owners have become clear, the inside club members have become clear, and it's become clear that we are not in the club and we're being crumbs. And so the owners of these companies, we might work for them, but we know we're not, we could get laid off any day. We could be one of the 10,000 at any moment, one of the 15,000 at any moment. And so, this Davos thing, seeing it every year, it being more and more publicized, frankly speaking, and that Sheen continuing to be there, I think people are realizing, and there is that disconnect or that realization, and that's why that corporate loyalty is no
Well,
longer as
and I don't
solid as it
know.
was.
I don't know if that's where, like, I don't know what's worse, being laid off or being left over. Like, what about the people that aren't laid off, right? Because now I mean, like, if it wasn't clear to you now, because if you're inside, it's harder to see, right? It's harder to see because they're showering you with all the sparkles, and so it's harder to see clearly. It's easier when you're out on the other side, I think. And so then everybody's laid off around you, and now you're the leftover. You're inside there, and you saw what they do, right? Like, I wonder how that feels. Like, I wonder what goes on inside of you, right? Like, now that you're like, okay, like, do you like it's probably a mix of emotions, but one of them, like, you're sad for the people that left, but you're also grateful that you didn't leave, that like you haven't, and then maybe it's because you're better and more useful, and they also they weren't useful, and there was so much bloat in this company anyway, and that's a good move. And so then you double down on your loyalty for the company, right? You're like, because they didn't let me go, um, like not knowing that, like, yo, if there's another round, man, like, why do you think that you would be special, right? Like, why do you?
You were number 501 and they stopped at 500. That's all
Yeah,
that
yeah,
happened.
yeah. Next time, like, and like, if this quarter doesn't clean up, like, if Trump
Man
doesn't,
up. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Next
if
man
Trump
up.
doesn't win again, like, now you got to follow the
Or
money, see who they're
alternatively, if
supporting,
Biden wins again.
and Biden wins again.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
this is it's totally, I think, an absolutely insane time. And so when I talk about, like, I think it's important, or like when I talk about, like, well, one of the words that when we initially started to do this episode, we were talking about anti-work, and like we didn't talk about it, we didn't even say the word, but like I think like anti-work, like the idea of anti-work isn't you're against working. I think on the contrary, like you're anti the corporate labor environment. Let's say.
There's another group on Reddit. There's one r/anti-work, and then there's another one that has similar ideas, but I like their title better. It's r/work reform.
Yeah,
And I think that's
where
what you're kind of getting at. We're not against working. We like
we're
working
not.
hard,
I don't want to
but in
abolish
fair
work.
conditions, right?
Yes, I don't want
Yeah,
to
yeah,
abolish work.
but like in
I
just
don't.
and fair conditions.
Yeah, I don't want work that just makes us all feel good, right? And I mean, we've talked about this even with like climate activists, right? Like you don't do the thing just because it makes you feel good, like, because it's so addictive when something makes you feel good, especially when it gives you a moral superiority, and then you feel like, well, like, I deserve this because I'm better than everybody else. And it's the same thing with like with like sort of environment, with some like climate activism, where it's like it's just to prove that I'm better than you. it's to prove it either to myself or to prove it to you. It's up, and so it gives me these feelings that makes me better than you. It gives me these feelings that makes it so that I can go stick my hand and inconvenience all these other people, and I don't really have an in-depth understanding of a solution to a problem. I don't have, and I still do it on the phone that was created with, like, child labor, and with, like, that came out of hell. Like, literally, the components of your phone came from hell, and some, and a child had to go get it, right? So, like, none of us are can hold that position. Like, none of us. There's nobody that could just sit here and yell down at us, and I feel like as we bash on corporations, even when they try to be inclusive, they do that in a heart, like when Nike and the hijabs, and they're like, okay, and when they pick sides, and they pick a thing, and they say we want to be on the right side of history. The Ukraine thing as another example. Like, once the corporations start weighing in on that, I don't think it's ever good, man. I don't think it's ever good. I think it just creates a group think that makes it very difficult for anybody to, and now more than ever, makes it really difficult for anybody to even say anything that is that without being labeled as, a bigot, a racist, a Islamophobe, homophobe, whatever. You pick it, right? You pick it. And then there's so many activists busy educating us, like, just like really, like, wagging their fingers at us and, like, educating us, and like what's not to get? Like, how do you not get it? Are you with me? You, and so that type of stuff, I don't know, man. It's I find I react against it. And maybe that's something wrong with me, but I mean, that's I feel like that's you got to be awake, man. You got to be awake. Like, maybe I hope we can see
Be
clearly.
awake, but don't be woke.
Yeah, exactly. I think
Be
it's like
awake, but don't be woke.
I think it's a third culture thing, man. I think it's a third culture thing, is that we have the opportunity to see it in a way that other people can't. That other people may not have the lens to, or have the eye to, or the eye hole, let's say, in the little hole that is our universe. And so, like, I've talked about this belief before, that, like, we live in this little, like, ball, and we all have little eye holes that we can see through, and everybody's got a different one, so everybody got different perspectives. But I think third culture kids kind of got, like, their eye holes a little bit further apart. They kind of have a bit more of a view of a wider range of things, and so because of that, they like, I feel like it's like our responsibility to share that, and to talk about that, and to sort of, like, I mean, I'm even careful with this language, right? Like, it's our responsibility to do this, but maybe it's our purpose, maybe it's our gift, maybe it's a thing that, like, is with us, so that we can kind of reflect back to humanity, things that they might not be able to see from within their view, and yeah, maybe, I don't know. Those are my 2 cents.
Yeah.
All right, well,
I
that's a
don't
good place to
know.
end.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you very much. Thanks, guys. See you next week. Thanks for staying to the end. Talk soon.
Cheers.